All right. Why do you believe there's a link between the Collin County and the Dallas cases?
Well, simply because of the fact that there's no foundation for the Dallas case. The supposed crime was investigated in '07 and '08, and by Detective Cox. By the way, you know that they said he wasn't there. You might want to check and see if he's still there. I think he is. And he was with the Dallas Police Department and the FBI Cyber Squad, and he point blank said that it was a civil matter, that it wasn't going to push the issue for any kind of criminal prosecution. And that was the end of it until the Collin County deal came around, and then all of a sudden the DA decided to fabricate it out of nowhere. And not only, I believe it was probably why he miswrote the indictment, because of the fact that he didn't have all the facts from Detective Cox, so that's why the quash motion was filed, because he didn't even write up, he didn't even know the facts in the matter, and I believe that's because he didn't confer with Detective Cox, because Detective Cox was not a participant in it. So the simple fact that it was something investigated in '07 and '09, and it was simply fabricated out of air just to assist in Collin County's prosecution, I think it was more of an intimidation tactic, as well as, obviously, as we all know now, the illegal surveillance that was done on my house at the exact time that I was arrested for that case by Frisco.
Okay, now can you give a quick synopsis of the Collin County case, which is where all your problems started?
Yeah, the quick synopsis is that my son was facing some serious time in Oklahoma, and in an attempt to try to help him work it out, I found out that he was on drugs, and he was stealing from me, and he was headed down the wrong path. So I just told him that there was nothing that I could do with him, that he had to straighten up, fly right, go down the straight and narrow before I would do it. That made him very angry, and he pulled something that I wasn't even aware of. Obviously, you see it on television and news now. He decided, as a retaliation, in order to get me out of the house, in order he can get the car that he wanted, the title and the money, in order to leave the country, he called Frisco Police Department with a bogus 911 welfare call. And from there, Frisco took the ball and fumbled it all over the field and kicked it out of bounds, and then grabbed it and ran inbounds with it, and then fumbled it again, and then ran it down for a touchdown, so they thought, which is all bases on the fact that the 911 operator was very incompetent and inept, and she didn't investigate what about the validity of my son's call was, or anything about him, and didn't really verify that there was any truth in the call in the first place. She dispatched an officer, who was Officer Greer, that then came to my house, broke every police protocol in the book. He was supposed to wait on a second officer. He didn't do that. He was supposed to then knock and then announce. They didn't do that. So when he came to my door at I think about 11:35 at night, and he walked up and he beat on it with his flashlight, it was not a knock. I obviously, since I had received several threatening texts from my son and several phone calls, and he tried to steal a couple of cars that day, and that's documented. There's police reports for that. I assumed it was Rick, so I told him, warned him not to come over the house, and I was pretty much expecting him. So when I heard the banging on the door, I walked up to the front door and yelled, "Rick, get out of here!" And then I raised my gun and shot a warning shot high to the right. After waiting a few seconds.
And that was inside your house, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was inside my house, and I had a concealed handgun permit. I mean, I didn't break the law. It's called castle law. In fact, that then brought. What happened then is Officer Greer goes out and informs the next officer that I pointed at him, or basically goes off and says that I shot at him. and which was a lie, because the first thing he says on the tapes is he pointed that thing at me, but I don't think he could see me, though. That's all in the evidence.
Now, what do you think the reason that he didn't follow police protocol by announcing himself and waiting on another, was he a beginner officer? Was he a
I don't
rookie?
think he actually is a rookie, but I think he certainly acted like a rookie. I think what he did was inept and incompetent. He just didn't apply himself. He didn't do, he didn't show any concern, or he didn't go through proper procedure, but he also just didn't use common sense. And what he did is all he did is escalate the matter, and what he did was antagonize the situation. I'll give him credit; he wouldn't have known what had happened, but if he would have followed procedure, it would have never happened.
And then all along the road, the way, it crescendoed because nobody ever asked any questions. Everybody just knee-jerked and overreacted.
Yeah, in fact, there was a neighbor that has this police scanner and listens to it all the time, and he caught up on it. And the original firing a warning shot turned into shooting at a cop and then shooting at cops. So eventually, what the media picked up and what the police, I don't know whether the rest of the police department was responding to it was like I was sitting up in my up by 1 mile windows and taking sniper shots with a rifle at cops driving by, which is totally bizarre, totally false. There was nothing to it. Then they actually had I called 911 to report I thought it was Rick, and then she said something to me, and I said, well, I thought it was, but everything's fine. 911 called me 3 times or 4 times, and each time they kept telling me that they wanted me to come outside. And I said, well, why? She said, well, we're concerned about you. And I said, well, I'm fine. Why do you want me, give her several opportunities to tell, because I was asking her a question because, to make sure that, I was certain it was Rick, but, why was it? Because all of a sudden I had gotten a text from Rick, and the text said, you need to go outside, it's the cops. And I figured, well, the only way he would know that is he was obviously outside, just like I thought. Well, I didn't know that he had made a 911 call from my daughter's house, and that's why he knew it, because he was then talking to the police who'd called him back and asked some questions about me.
Do you think Rick was actually not just trying to get you out of the house so he could rob you, but actually try to eliminate you?
I don't want to go there.
Okay.
I don't think that Rick really intended me any harm. I think he figured that I would probably do that, and they would arrest me, and he could get in the house and get the keys and the title. Well, obviously, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Okay. Now, at the end of your interrogation, what did Officer Stanzel ask you?
At the end of the conversation?
When you were interrogated, what was the question that Officer Stanzel asked you?
Well, she had asked me if I thought it was Rick, or if I thought it was at one point, and I said, by then I was, here's what happened. First I get arrested, and I ask for an attorney after all this gets done. Now, you got to realize at 4 o'clock when it finally escalates and I get a machine, I thought it was a tear gas, I guess it was coming out of a phone machine, thrown through my window, and my alarm goes off, and I wake up, and there's snipers on rooftops. There's a lady on the phone screaming at me that I'm about to lose my life, says you need to come outside right away with your hands in the air, Mr. Bailey, or it's highly likely you will lose your life in the process. And she repeated that 3 or 4 times, which is something they also left out of the trial. So, by the time I get to the Frisco Police Department, I'm asking for an attorney, and they just told me I couldn't do it. Matter of fact, they made the comment that in accordance to that since 9/11, under the Terrorist Act, that they could keep me for 10 to 12 hours and interrogate me without allowing me to have an attorney.
Okay.
Now, that is exactly what she asked me then. All she wanted to know was, where's the gun? Where's the gun? Where's the gun? And I had put it back in my gun case, which was really kind of a hiding place in my house.
Okay.
So they couldn't find it, so then they called Rick, and Rick, my son, and had him come over so he showed him where the gun was. Once he showed him where the gun was, then they all left. Detective Stansel, who he talked to and told her where the gun was, stayed there for a bit. And my neighbor observed Rick carrying all in like a clothes basket, laundry basket, carrying out all my stuff, and because he knows that my laptop was on the top of it and whatever. And during that time, he did rob me. He took my wallet, and then he commenced to max out all my credit cards, emptied my checking accounts, my bank accounts, and then he took my license and tried to buy a car with it within about 10 hours of this incident that I got arrested.
So what you predicted
and he was charged with identity theft, and he was arrested right afterwards.
So what you predicted would happen actually happened. And where is Rick right now?
He may be on parole now. He may have completed his sentence. He got 8 years. He was sentenced to 8 years for the identity theft with my driver's license and the theft of my house, robbing my house. Oklahoma charged him with the identity theft. Texas never brought any charges against him. Of course, they didn't. They obviously didn't want to because it would have.
Now that Rick's since he went to prison,
muddied the water on me because then it would have proven that what I had done was totally justified.
Now, did that affect whether or not he could actually testify on your behalf in the Collin County case?
Yeah, originally they had written him down as a witness for the prosecution, and then when they realized that he was one to testify to the fact that he was the one that showed them where the gun was, they actually sent an officer or somebody went up to the prison in Oklahoma and told Rick that if he did come to Texas and testify, that they would charge him, and they would charge him with an habitual, and they would lock him up in Texas for the rest of his life. So he would not come to the trial. I told him it wasn't necessary, and I wasn't really going to push it. But
Do you think
the court wouldn't issue a subpoena for me, but they did issue a subpoena for the state before they realized that Rick was going to turn against him.
Now, if we could get Rick to come down and take a lie detector test, do you think he could take a lie detector test about and testify about what they told him?
Everybody knows that. That's like I offered to take a lie detector test, and when I tried to do it, the company that I went to simply told me, "Look, this is a fact." And my attorney at the time, Whalen, will verify this. They made me sit there for 3 hours, and they came out and said, "Mr. Bailey, you need to understand. The police in this area are bread and butter. That's how we make our living. If we get around to you, we will. But you're just going to have to be patient, and we get a chance, we'll do what you want." And so basically, they told me they weren't going to give me the lie detector test because I'm assuming that both Frisco PD and the prosecutor said don't because they knew I would pass it.
Okay.
It's bizarre, but anyway, and Whalen knows that.
Okay.
It's documented.
I've got another question. What unusual thing happened to you in the police station, and what did this woman say to you?
Oh well. When I was arrested for the Dallas case, I was transferred from Frisco, who was the one that arrested me for the bogus warrant. They first transferred me to Dallas, and that's where I run into a police officer, and I was talking about my deal, and Deborah Stansel knows, really what happened, but he just said, "Look, Deborah's very, very sorry about everything that's happened to you. She feels very bad about it."
Did you hope that Officer Stansel could come and testify in your case?
Pardon?
Did you hope that Officer Stansel could testify in your case?
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew she was going to testify, and I knew she was going to finally. She was the key because she knew that what they had done was totally wrong.
Why did she not?
Cut it off, and I'll call you back.
Why was she not able to testify?
They said she committed suicide, but that's a bunch of bull. I know she was murdered.
Okay. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Bailey.
You done?
I'm done.